The single mom I married tried to take half my wealth, so I exposed her secret messages that made her beg to settle out of court. Yeah, I know how that sounds. Wild, right? But let me tell you something. When love and betrayal mix, you learn that heartbreak doesn't care how old you are or how much money you got in the bank. My name's Harris. I'm 59 years old, and for most of my life, I've been the kind of man who believes in fixing things, not running from them. I built my business from scratch, raised 3 kids who are all grown now, and after my first divorce, I swore I'd never let another woman break me. But then came Trisha, 36, single mom, with a smile that could calm a storm. She had that soft voice, that little southern drawl that made you lean in closer when she spoke. And her son, Matthew, that boy lit up any room he walked into. He reminded me of my youngest when he was that age. Have you ever met somebody who made you forget every bad thing that ever happened to you? Like, their presence alone made you think maybe, just maybe, God was giving you a second shot at happiness? That's what Trisha was to me, or so I thought. I didn't know that behind that pretty smile was a quiet, calculated setup that almost cost me half of everything I worked my whole life for. Looking back now, I can't even tell you the exact moment when love turned into manipulation. It was slow and smooth, like a snake slipping through tall grass. Stick around, 'cause what happened next ain't just about love gone wrong. It's about revenge served cold and a man who refused to be played twice. And while you're here, tell me something, family. Have you ever given your all to someone who turned out to be playing you from day one? Drop it in the comments. I want to hear your story too. Life was good, man. Real good. I live out in the north side of Atlanta, quiet neighborhood, big yards, neighbors that wave, but don't get too nosy. Just the kind of place where folks got motion but are still humble with it. I'd worked damn near 35 years to build that life. Ran my own contracting company, invested smart, and after my kids grew up and moved out, that big house started feeling a little too empty. Then I met Trisha. It was one of them late Sunday evenings. My friend Greg had dragged me to a small jazz lounge downtown. Said I needed to get out more instead of working myself into an early grave. I wasn't even trying to meet nobody that night. But there she was, sitting at the bar, legs crossed, logging at something on her phone. She had that soft brown skin, short curls, and a dimple that showed up every time she smiled. We started talking, and before I knew it, hours had passed. I learned she had a 7-year-old son named Matthew, worked part-time at a boutique, and had been raising him on her own since his father passed. Something about her honesty pulled me in. Maybe 'cause she wasn't trying too hard. You know how some folks got that quiet confidence? That was her. Now, I ain't gonna front. I knew folks was talking. Why's Harris messing with that young girl? Man, she just want that old man's money. But love don't always look like what people expect. And truth be told, she brought youth back into my world. The house felt alive again. Music playing, candles burning. There was little Matthew running around yelling. That boy didn't waste no time claiming me either. First it was Mr. Harris, then Pops. I ain't gonna lie. That one got me emotional the first time. You ever had a child look at you like you hung the moon? That's how that little boy looked at me. Sundays became our thing. We went to church in the morning, had brunch after, and then a drive through the city. She loved that. She'd lean her head on my shoulder, post a picture with a caption like, "Grateful for the simple things." And I'd smile thinking, yeah, this might be it. Maybe this is my peace. But see, peace can fool you. Sometimes it's just calm before the storm. I started noticing little things, not big enough to fight about, but enough to make you tilt your head. Like how her phone was always in her hand. Even when we was watching movies, her screen would be face down. Or how she'd step out the room when it rang. I told myself, she probably just needs privacy. Ain't no big deal. But then her spending picked up. She got new bags. Her nails were getting done every week. I didn't mind. I'd given her a card for household stuff. But when you start seeing $1,000 charges at boutiques you ain't never heard of, you start wondering. I brought it up one night, real calm. She laughed, brushed it off like, "Oh, baby, you know how things add up. I'll cut back." And just like that, the topic died. Now, if you've ever been divorced before, you know what that kind of peace feels like. The fake kind. You don't want to argue, so you convince yourself everything's fine. That's what I did. I'd already gone through one messy split of my life. I wasn't trying to live through that hell again. So, instead of questioning too much, I just let it be. One time, I came home early from work. She was on the phone whispering. Soon as she saw me, she hung up. I asked who it was, and she said, "Oh, just a friend." Something about the way she said it didn't sit right. Still, I try to keep my faith in her. 'Cause when you love somebody, you start making excuses for don't you? You ever done that? Ignored your gut, 'cause your heart didn't want to believe what your eyes were seeing. That was me. I told myself I was overthinking. Told myself maybe I was getting paranoid 'cause of my age. That maybe I was scared she'd wake up one day and realize she could have somebody younger. So I started working out again. Bought new cologne. Even changed my wardrobe. She'd notice sometimes and say, "Okay, Harris, I see you trying to show out." And I'd laugh, play it off. But deep down, I was just trying to keep her attention. Funny thing though, the more I tried, the more distant she got. Sometimes she'd pick little fights out of nowhere. About how I folded the towels, how I didn't post her enough on social media. I ain't never been a let's go viral kind of man, but she cared about that stuff heavy. I didn't realize at the time that she'd already started pulling away, not just emotionally, but in ways I couldn't see yet. And when I finally did see it, when I realized what was really going on, man, listen, that's when the whole house of cards came crashing down. But we'll get to that. You know how they say peace can be so quiet, you almost forget what chaos sounds like? That's how it was right before everything started changing. Trish became so secretive that I remember asking once, half-jokingly, "You running a secret business I don't know about?" She laughed too quickly and said, "If I was, you'd be the first to invest." But her eyes, they didn't match her tone. Now, I'm not the type to snoop. I built my life on trust, in people, in process, in faith. So I brushed it off. Told myself every relationship has its quirks. After all, I'd been through one divorce already. I wasn't about to start another war over paranoia. But something in me, that quiet, uneasy voice we all ignore, it started whispering again. You ever felt your heart telling you something your mind refused to hear? Yeah, that was me. I was never a playboy, and my last marriage didn't end because of infidelity. So pardon me if I didn't have cheating spider senses when it came to Trisha. But yeah, I had my suspicions. Her spending changed next. At first, it was new dresses, nothing extravagant, just frequent. Then came spa visits, dinners with friends, some little charges that didn't match her usual pattern. And she had excuses for everything. Smooth, well-timed excuses that sounded almost rehearsed. Still, I stayed calm. One evening, I came home earlier than usual, a Thursday. She wasn't expecting me. From the hallway, I heard her voice, soft, low, with that sweetness she used to reserve for me. And then, clear as day, she said, "I miss you too, baby." My body went cold. She must have heard the door click, because by the time I stepped in, she was in the kitchen pretending to reheat food. Her phone was nowhere in sight. "Who are you talking to?" I asked. She smiled. "Tasha's cousin," she said. "He just lost his job. I was checking in." Tasha's cousin. I nodded, pretending to buy it. But inside, I already knew the truth had begun to show cracks. That night, after she fell asleep, I picked up her phone. And there it was, message after message with Tasha's cousin. Except these weren't the kind of texts you send to family. They were flirty, intimate, the kind that carry a history you can feel through the screen. My chest felt heavy, but I didn't yell, didn't throw the phone, didn't wake her up. At my age, I've learned silence hurts louder. I turned off the light, lay beside her, and stared at the ceiling until morning. My mind played every laugh, every touch, every "I love you" she ever said, and suddenly, they all sounded like rehearsed lines in a play I didn't know I was part of. Still, I try to fix things. Maybe I was being a simp, but I've seen men my age or even older than me die a lonely death. My fear of being alone overshadowed my need for dignity. I started going to the gym again. Thought maybe if I looked younger, she'd see me the way she used to. Brought her flowers. Planned a weekend getaway. Even suggested therapy. But her warmth had vanished. She became distant, always scrolling, always sighing, always finding something wrong with me. "You're too controlling," she'd say. "You want everything your way. You're old-fashioned, Harris." Old-fashioned. That word echoed in my head longer than it should have. Then came the withdrawals. I noticed them by accident. Little sums disappearing from our joint card. At first, I thought maybe she was helping her sister again. But when I checked further, I saw jewelry missing too. A few of her son's clothes gone. Something was happening, and she wasn't planning to tell me. I asked her one evening, trying my best to stay calm. "Trisha, is there something you're not telling me?" "Nothing, Harris. There's nothing going on." But by the time I got back from the office the following day, I was met with an empty house. She had packed all her things, took her son, and left. I was bewildered. I searched for her, called at her work, and no one there had seen her in a while. 2 weeks later, a courier showed up at my office, manila envelope in hand. Divorce papers, filed under irreconcilable differences. And she wasn't just asking to leave, she was asking for half. Half of everything I'd worked my whole life for. Then it hit me. I'd been played. I sat in my office, the city lights reflecting off the glass, and for a long time, I didn't move. I just sat there, an empty bottle of bourbon on the table and the last drop in my glass. What would you have done in my shoes? Let her walk, or fight back? Because that's where my story turns. See, what Trisha didn't know was, I'd already seen the rest of those messages. And what I found in there made her regret ever thinking she could play me. See, my first marriage ended 15 years ago. Patricia, funny enough, another Trish. She used to say I loved my business more than I loved her. Maybe she was right. Back then, I was building something from nothing. Long nights, endless meetings, missed anniversaries. I told myself it was for the family, but she saw it differently. One morning, she packed up her things and left. No big fight, no screaming, just a note on the counter that said, "I need someone who's here, not just successful." Our 2 boys were in college by then, and they stayed with me a while before moving on with their own lives. So, when Trisha came along, she brought light back into that silence. She didn't just fill the space, she made it feel like home again. And when her little boy, Matthew, started calling me Pops, it hit something deep in me I didn't even know was still alive. I'd missed being that father figure, the bedtime stories, the football toss in the yard, the "look at me, Pops," moments that make life feel full. With Matthew, I got to relive that. So, when Trisha said she wanted a divorce, it wasn't just her leaving that broke me. It was losing that boy too. Because no matter what happened between us, I'd grown to love him like my own. And maybe that's why I didn't see the signs. I was too busy trying to be better than I was before. Too busy proving that I could love right this time. But as I'd soon find out, love don't fix people who come into your life already planning their exit. Do you ever get that gut feeling when something don't add up? Like the world around you looks the same, but the math just don't math? That's what it felt like after she walked out. It wasn't sadness anymore. It was confusion. Confusion with a touch of quiet rage. I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story. See, I wasn't new to heartbreak, but this felt like a setup. So I did what any man with sense and resources would do. I called in a favor. A friend of mine, Charles, used to be a detective with the Atlanta PD. Now he ran a private investigation firm out in Buckhead. Straight shooter, no drama. He came to my office that Friday morning, looked me dead in the eye, and said, "You want me to find out if she's been playing you, don't you?" I didn't even answer. I just slid her recent statements and a photo of her across the table. He nodded. "Give me a week." Turns out, he didn't even need that long. 3 days later, he calls me back to the office. I can still remember that look on his face, that mix of pity and disbelief, before he even said a word. "Harris," he said, "I found him." "Found who?" "The man she's been talking to. The one she's been sneaking off to see. The one you thought was dead." At first I laughed. A dry, bitter laugh. What you talking about? Her baby daddy? She told me he died years ago. Charles just shook his head. Nah, he was locked up. Did time for armed robbery. Got paroled last year. And now he's on the run again, violated parole, and disappeared 6 months ago. I felt the room tilt. The air went thin. He slid a few photos across the desk. There she was, my wife, sitting in a diner off Campbellton Road. Across from her, that same man she swore was buried. They weren't hugging. They weren't even touching. But the body language said everything. That quiet, electric tension between two people with unfinished business. Charles kept talking. We've been tracking her phone activity. Those weird withdrawals. She's been moving cash to a prepaid account. I think she's preparing to skip town. And the timing lines up. The divorce papers came right after she reconnected with him. That's when it hit me. This wasn't heartbreak. It was robbery. She wanted half my wealth to fund her getaway with a man who should have been rotten in prison. A week later, I called her. Told her I wanted to talk, not argue or fight. Just talk. She agreed. Maybe she thought I'd finally accepted defeat. We met at this quiet spot, our old date-night restaurant in Midtown. Same booth, same view of the skyline. I wore my calm like an armor. She looked stunning. Always did. She smiled that practiced smile and said, "You look good, Harris." I smiled back. We ordered dinner. Made small talk. I was impressed with how civil she was that evening. After a while, I leaned in, looked her dead in the eye, and said softly, "Trisha, I just need to know one thing. Was any of it real? Did you ever love me, or was I just your ticket out?" She froze, fork halfway to her mouth. Her eyes darted, looking for the right lie. But silence has a way of cornering people. She cleared her throat. "Harris, you're making this harder than it has to be." I chuckled. "Trisha, I'm not angry. I just want to understand what I did wrong. I gave you everything. Tried to love you the way I couldn't love my first wife. You and that boy. Y'all gave me something I didn't think I'd ever get again. So what changed?" She didn't answer, only just looked out the window. I leaned back. I guess some questions don't deserve answers. She excused herself soon after, said she had to go. I watched her walk out that door like a woman carrying no shame. And that's when I knew. She had no idea what was coming. 2 weeks later, we met again, this time in a conference room downtown. Divorce proceedings. Her legal team came in looking sharp, all tailored suits and confidence. I could see it in their eyes. They thought they were about to eat me alive. I know lawyers like that. They pride themselves in ripping off a wealthy man on behalf of their client. If only they knew what was waiting for them. We sat around that big oak table. Her lawyers, mine, the arbitrator, and her. She barely looked at me. They went first, laid out her demands, calm and rehearsed. Half of my properties, half my assets, spousal support for a period and all that. I just sat there listening, hands folded, heart steady. When they were done, the arbitrator turned to me. "Mr. Harris, do you have a response?" I didn't speak right away. I looked right at her, the woman who once promised to love me till death. That's when I leaned forward and said it. "I know he's alive." She blinked. "What?" "Your baby daddy. The one you said was dead. He's alive, Trisha. Very much alive. And if I recall correctly, he's supposed to be in prison." Her lawyers exchanged glances, confused, nervous. She froze, eyes wide, skin pale. My lawyer laid the big envelope on the table and pushed it to her. It contained pictures of their secret meetings. I kept going, calm as ever. "See, y'all want to talk about settlements? That's fine. But maybe we should talk about aiding and abetting a fugitive instead." One of her lawyers cleared his throat. "Mr. Harris, we don't think." I cut him off. "Don't think. I'm very certain you are not paid to think. Can't remember much of what I said, but it wasn't respectful. And I loved every bit of it." The arbitrator raised a hand. "Mr. Harris, please. Let's keep this civil." I turned to him, still calm. "Oh, I'm being civil. But if I wanted to, I could make one phone call and end this little show today. Because from what I know, harboring a fugitive, that's a felony. Right, counselor?" I looked straight at her lawyer. He shifted uncomfortably in his seat. The room went dead silent. All you could hear was the hum of the ceiling fan and the sound of her breathing fast. Then she whispered, trembling, "What do you want?" For the first time in a long while, I smiled, but it wasn't out of joy. It was closure. I stood up, straightened my jacket, and said slowly, "I just want you to leave my life the same way you came into it, with nothing." Her mouth opened like she wanted to speak, but no words came out. Her lawyer stared, unsure whether to chase or stay seated. I turned to my attorney, nodded once, and walked out. I didn't look back. Didn't need to. A few hours later, my lawyer called. They've dropped the case. Her team agreed to a no-contest divorce. She's not asking for anything. I just said, "Good." Hung up. Sat there in my office, staring out the window at the Atlanta skyline. For a long time, I thought love was supposed to heal the pain from your past. But sometimes it just teaches you to guard your peace better. Trisha and I were married 3 years. 3 years of what I thought was love turned out to be one long setup. And the saddest part? I still miss that little boy. I had already set up a trust fund for when he turned 18, and even after the divorce, I still contemplate leaving it like that for him. But as for her, let's just say, I hope she remembers the man she tried to play, was playing chess the whole time. Sometimes I still catch myself wondering, what could have been if things were real? If love hadn't come with conditions, if promises actually meant something. But then again, maybe this was God's way of teaching me what peace really costs. I thought wealth would protect me. I thought experience would make me smarter. Turns out, even a man with everything can still fall for someone who came to take it all. But what they don't tell you is, when you survive betrayal, you come out sharper. You stop begging people to stay. You start protecting your peace like it's gold. I learned that closure ain't about getting even. It's about letting go without losing yourself. And as for Trisha, I ain't bitter. She showed me that love without honesty ain't love at all. That trust without truth is just delay and heartbreak. Every now and then, I see Matthew's old toy car sitting by the window. I kept it, not 'cause I miss her, but 'cause I still care for that boy who once called me Pops. He didn't ask for any of this. And maybe one day, when he's old enough to understand, he'll know I tried. So yeah, I lost a marriage, but I gained clarity and peace. Man, that's priceless. If you've ever been lied to, played, or made to feel like your love wasn't enough, remember this. You ain't weak for loving somebody. You're only weak when you let their betrayal turn you cold. Keep your heart, but guard it better next time. Now tell me in the comments, have you ever given your all to someone who turned out to be using you? How did you bounce back? I want to hear your story, 'cause somebody out there might need your words tonight. And if you felt this one, don't just watch and scroll. Hit that subscribe button, join the family, and let's keep telling stories that remind folks. Love might break you, but truth will always set you free.